Okay, right. So this is my book. This is the Sir Malcolm Jack book, and yes, I did actually get a proper book made. So it's the actual, not the parliamentary practice Sir Malcolm Jack, but his actual writing with this Gordon guy. So what he's trying to make out here, right, is that he's trying to say that on other earlier parliaments were also historically important. Freedom from arrest was another part of the protection the commons sought from action by the monarch against those who displeased it. As with other privileges, it is based upon the absolute priority of members to attend and to participate. Well, I think that's worded a little bit better in the Jefferson book, in the American book for the Senate, where people who voted for persons have a right for them to attend and represent them. I'm actually going to buy that book because it's a good book. But it is important to note this is it now, right? This is. In fact, it might not be Malcolm Jack. It could be this Gordon KC guy who wrote this part, but they did it together. So it, it is it is important to note that it has never been extended to protect members from arrest on criminal charges, except in the chamber when the House is actually sitting, right? Rubbish. Absolute rubbish. Right, here, right? If you actually know the Parliamentary Privileges Acts, all of them, there's about 4 or 5 of them. I've got them all printed out. I've got my own copies of them all. From Strode's Act, if what we just read, if what Malcolm Jack and Gordon had just said was true, then it would render Strode's Act completely non-existent, because the entire point of Strode's Act is that he was stopped from getting to Parliament. That was out of Parliament because he was under arrest, right? The statement in the book completely and totally undermines the point and purpose of Strode's Act, right? Now, the subsequent acts, including the 1770 Act, there were a few of them. There's also one 1680, around the time of the Bill of Rights, inconveniences and the rest on privileges of Parliament, right? It says sessions, right? So that means that when MPs are needing to attend on a daily basis or to be regularly attending, right? And also because being arrested is also quite intimidating and threatening as well, because the accusations might not even be true. And remember that it used to be civil processes as well, until you've been proved innocent or guilty in a trial, right? This all ties into in the Erskine May book. He's talking about petitioners being intimidated and things like that. Well, you can intimidate MPs by many people charging them with offences, like Russell Brand's been charged with these offences. If MPs don't follow their party leaders, like Keir Starmer is throwing Labour MPs out if they don't vote his way in the chamber. He might get some of his, friends or associates to start conjuring up criminal charges against them, badgering them, right? Now, here, right, this is something I really wanted to know, this makes it quite clear now, right? Parliamentary sessions and sittings, right? So, a session is not just a sitting. I was a little bit uncertain of whether a session was a sitting, right? So a sitting is a sitting, right? So Malcolm Jack, he's trying to make out in his book that MPs are only protected from arrest during a sitting of Parliament, not a session, right? Or for the duration of a parliament. So a parliament is from the start and end of the entire, from having a general election to when it is dissolved, right? Sessions are, there are so many sessions through the year, but they all last for a certain period, right? A session is not a sitting. And I would have thought that if they're actually attending regularly the sessions, then that's when they're not at the surgery, right? Because they only hold surgeries now at certain times, okay? And when you're attending your surgery, that's also doing parliamentary business, really, right? So it's not the act, the legal law which is in force, which is what the courts have to go by, and other people who are making use of the law, right, have to go by the act, right? And that the act says that not to be arrested during session time, right, for summary offences. But since they abolished felony, there aren't any serious offences which would be a felony. So to me, that means they're all treated as summary, right? Now, there's something about indictment, but not in the act. There's nothing. Indictment doesn't exist in the act. You can't just say all felonies are indictment, because they're not, right? They're not indictment. Now, if indictments were felonies, they can be prosecuted against, but not arrested. So that means you can have a prosecution but not arrest or imprisonment. So the sentence could be brought under a felony, but the MP wouldn't actually serve a sentence until after the session of Parliament or after the Parliament, right? So I think Malcolm Jack got his arrest mixed up with prosecution, because in certain circumstances they could be prosecuted but not arrested, amazingly, right? Because you don't have to be arrested to answer questions to the police or to have a court case. And really, another principle in English law which is undermined is the right to have representation, like in Westminster Hall or in a High Court, without you having to turn up. Like, as long as someone turns up for you, then they don't send, they don't say it's contempt, and, your personal body cannot be summoned. But it can be. You used to be able to have counsel to turn up and represent you, and then if he lost your case, then you still can't be arrested, imprisoned, so they can't come in and grab you until the end of the session of Parliament, right? But summary cases would not even be allowed to be prosecuted during the sessions. So I think Malcolm Jack and Mr. Gordon have got themselves mixed up between the prosecution and the arrest, right? Because you can have a prosecution go ahead without an arrest, like driving offences, but they're summary, so they can't take place during sessions, right? So I'm going to call him out on that one, because this has answered my question. It's called a sitting. It's called a sitting, right? And the Act of Law says sessions, so they're the longer periods which are broken up, almost kind of like seasons. That they might even used to have been referred to, like Michaelmas or Hilary Term or whatever. I don't know if these sessions have a name, but they're almost kind of like seasons or months rather than days and minutes. So that they're not the sitting. They're not the sitting. So that they can't be arrested during the session, right? And no proceedings can take place during the sessions for summary. And seeing that they've abolished felony, there is no such thing. So the Act does not say indictment. According to the Act, there's no such thing. It doesn't differentiate. It said felony. And those proceedings can continue. And a lot of time, it's usually because of, felony was when it involved possessions. Like when courts used to be able to take people's belongings directly from them. They do that anyway now if you don't pay your fines, but like by a court order to take assets or things like that.